For many, anarchy brings to mind the image of glass shattering in the dark. It evokes a sudden collapse into violence, a world without rules. Think instead of two plumbers repairing a broken pipe. When one asks for a wrench, the other hands it over without a second thought. They coordinate their actions to solve a problem, operating entirely on trust. The late David Graeber, a leading anthropologist of his generation, spent his career arguing that this mundane cooperation is the true, invisible engine of society. He identified this as everyday communism. It is the baseline human practice of acting according to ability and need, whether we are sharing tools, giving directions to a stranger, or helping a neighbor move. The wisdom of anarchy is found in the realization that we already spend most of our day practicing this kind of voluntary cooperation. We manage our lives together every day without being forced to by a central authority. Steady, observational tone. Even so, modern life often feels like a series of inescapable cages. We navigate meaningless bureaucracy at work and manage rising levels of personal and financial debt. Standard economic theories suggest these systems are the logical endpoint of human development, the only way to manage a species driven primarily by greed and competition. In his analysis of the archaeological and ethnographic record, Graeber identifies patterns that challenge these assumptions. He highlights complex societies that thrived for centuries without central states or commercial markets. When we assume that our current hierarchies are the natural result of human nature, we lose the capacity to imagine the world organized any other way. We become trapped not by reality, but by a lack of imagination. Graeber pointed out that in the heat of a task, if someone fixing a broken water pipe says, "Hand me the wrench," his coworker will not, generally speaking, say, "And what do I get for it?" Efficiency relies on mutual aid. This scales to the level of entire communities. During his time in rural Madagascar, Graeber observed villages that governed themselves through consensus, even as the influence of the central state retreated. Without a functioning police force or government, these communities maintained order through local custom and a shared sense of mutual accountability. They created autonomous spaces where human possibilities remained open and flexible. He also pointed to the indigenous critique, the recorded debates between Native American intellectuals and early French missionaries. These leaders offered a sophisticated defense of liberty and generosity, questioning why any person would submit to the will of a king. The archaeological record acts as a garden of past social experiments. It proves that permanent, rigid hierarchy is not a prerequisite for building a civilization. Our baseline cooperation is obscured by the state and market, which quantify organic obligations, turning social bonds into balance sheets. In Graeber's human economies, relationships are the currency. In commercial economies, mathematical values replace them. Once a debt is paid, the connection ends. This process relies on the threat of violence. When obligations are quantified and enforced by the state, they are used to make systemic inequality feel like a moral failure on the part of the person who owes money. We are born into a world of immense creative capacity, yet we find ourselves restricted by a layer of bureaucratic rules that treat our baseline freedom as a threat. For Graeber, anarchism was a practical mode of behavior, the capacity to manage our own affairs and choose our obligations without central control. This is the foundation of direct action. It is the defiant insistence on acting as if one is already free, rather than waiting for a state or a corporation to grant permission. The Occupy movement served as a large-scale experiment in this post-bureaucratic logic. It focused on the work of care, providing food, sanitation, and education through non-hierarchical communal effort. By refusing to make traditional political demands, the movement prioritized consensus-based decision-making. They focused on proving that humans can organize themselves without leaders or bosses. This prefigurative politics is the bridge between our daily cooperative instincts and the construction of a free society. It is the practice of living the future in the present. The world as it exists today was not handed down by nature. It was built by human hands and coordinated by human minds. We possess the freedom to move, the freedom to disobey, and to reconfigure our social arrangements. These freedoms are not given by laws. They are inherent capacities that we can choose to exercise at any time. The world around us is something that we make together, and because we make it, we can make it differently. Graeber's legacy is a kit of tools for creative refusal. It is the hope that by casting off our conceptual shackles, we can finally begin to act as if we are already free.